thanks a lot. I am audible, no? Sure.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity to talk in this particular workshop. So I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, ma'am, your screen is visible.
Okay, screen is visible, so you can see my slides, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as mentioned, so basically I will be talking on the cyberbully detection. So cyberbully is a nowadays because of the social media platforms like in Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So people often post different bullying comments and also the hate comments. So can we automatically determine? Can we develop some automated systems which can detect the cyberbullying automatically? So that is the purpose of this particular talk. So in this particular talk, I will mainly discuss about the different techniques and the data sets that we have used, that we have developed for cyberbullying detection. So basically, if you see any NLP research, the natural language processing research, you will see that there are much research, a large amount of research have been done in English language. So, but there are a very few amount of research has been carried out in the field of Indian languages. So basically, we in our lab, we are now focusing on cyberbullying detection in code mix Indian languages. So what do you mean by code mix? When we are using the social media platform, we often switch from basically one language to another language. Like maybe we are writing in Hindi, but then maybe we can also write some words in English. So this is called the code mixing. So basically, we have developed our own data sets for the code mix Indian languages and then develop some machine learning, deep learning techniques for automatically determining the cyberbully detection. So in my talk, I will discuss about about those techniques. And also, that nowadays in the social media platforms, apart from the text, people also often post different images. So when we are deciding whether a particular comment is hate or it is a bullying or not, can we consider the text as well as the images? So that is called the multimodal processing. So we are considering both text and the images together. So this is called the multimodal processing. So if we can develop the cyberbully detection from the multimodal data sets, then that is called the basically multimodal cyberbully detection. So as a part of my talk, I will also discuss about multimodal hate speech detection techniques. So already as mentioned, I am currently associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Patna. And my email addresses are sriparna@iitp.ac.in and sriparna.shaha@gmail.com. So this is my webpage www.iitp.ac.in /sriparna. And you can visit my webpage and you will see that we have a research team on AI/ML in IIT Patna, and this team is basically doing research in various application areas of natural language processing, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. So you please visit our webpage to get to know more about our group activities. And so let me start. So this is the outline of my talk. So basically, I will be discussing about the some different approaches, like the cyber BART is one approach, then the multilingual offensive language identification. Then we have developed a data set for the COVID-19. So focusing on the COVID-19, we have basically developed a data set where people, last year when just COVID-19 started, people used to bully each other who are basically suffering from the COVID-19. So basically, we collected our data set for in the COVID, keeping the COVID-19 in mind, and then we developed some deep learning based techniques for detecting the cyberbullying. Then I will also discuss about the multimodal cyberbully identification. As I mentioned that sometimes from the videos also we need to detect the cyberbullying. So maybe there is an image or there is a video, and some portions of the video or some portion of the image are basically bullying type. So can we automatically determine whether a particular video is of bullying type or not? Then there is this code mix cyberbully annotated dataset. So basically, as I mentioned, that code mixing is very popular in Indian scenario. People often switch from one language to another language, especially in the social media. So how to handle the code mix data? So if suppose there are multiple languages involved in a particular text, then how can we basically process the data, and how can we develop our own model for the cyberbully detection from the code mix data? So then there is this BART plus capsule architecture. Then BART plus map architecture. Then we will show you that how emotion and sentiment recognition can also help us in the cyberbully detection. So if we can solve a multitasking, basically if we can simultaneously solve 3 tasks, sentiment analysis, emotion detection, and the cyberbully detection together, then maybe this multitask model can give us the better result compared to the single task model. So this also we will show as a part of our talk. So this is just the introduction. So if there will be any problem, like if you are not able to hear me or the screen is not visible, just please let me know. So you know that the advent of the internet is a boon to the society. However, many of its bans cannot be undermined, cyberbullying being one of them. So basically, people are basically misusing the social media platforms. So through social media platform, people are basically sometimes basically bullying each other. So cyberbullying is defined through malicious tweets, text, or other social media posts via various digital technologies as the serious, intentional, and repeated actions of a person's cruelty towards others. So basically, cyberbullying can be defined as a malicious tweets, text, or other social media post via various digital technologies as the serious, intentional, and repeated actions of a person's cruelty towards others. So cyberbullying overcomes outcomes can differ from transient fear to suicide. You know that there are several outcomes of cyberbullying. So cyberbullying can create a sense of fear in the people's mind, and also maybe it can also lead to the suicide. So you know cyberbullying can also lead to the suicide. So many young, especially the young people who are suffering from the cyberbullying are basically can also do suicide sometimes. So it is very anonymous or hard to trace. So basically, that's why basically motivated by these observations. So the cyberbullying is a kind of a crime, and if we can automatically determine this crime, so motivated by this, we basically worked on the cyberbullying detection. So basically, in our first work, we developed a cyber BART. So BART is a basically transformer-based network, which is very popularly used language model. So basically, BART stands for the bidirectional encoder. Basically, this BART is a language model, and in our work, we have used this BART for solving the cyber detection problem. That's why it is called the cyber BART. So you know the word embeddings are the very important part of natural language processing. So let me tell you what is the word embedding. So word embedding is basically a vector representation of a particular word. So word embedding models basically take the word as an input, and it basically provides the vector representation of the particular word. So like suppose you are giving the boy or the girl as input, and you will get a vector representation of the boy or the girl. So but these vector representations are in the semantic space. So what do you mean by semantic space? So in the if you suppose there is a word embedding model, and now you are getting the embedding representations of the boy, girl, man, and woman. So you will see the cosine distance of the vector representations of the boy and girl is equal to the cosine distance of the vector representations of the man and woman. Okay, so that is the advantage of the basically the this word embeddings. So basically word embeddings are basically projecting the words in a higher dimensional space, which is basically semantic in nature. So the high dimensional space is basically semantic in nature, and there basically words, their semantic representations are basically captured. So word embeddings are very important, and there are very popular word embedding models like Word2Vec, Globe. These are some popularly used deep learning based word embedding models. So these models basically take the word as an input, and these models basically produce the output, the vector representations of the words. So as I mentioned that if you give the word boy, you will get a vector representation. If you give the word girl, you will get another vector representation. Man, you will get one vector representation. Woman, you will get another vector representation. Now the cosine similarity between the man vector representations of the man and woman would be almost equal to the cosine similarity between the vector representations of the boy and the girl. So the word embeddings are often pretend on text corpus from co-occurrence statistics. So basically a large amount of data from the collected from the Wikipedia or any other site are basically used to basically develop these word embedding models. So these word embedding models are basically based on the are trained on the text corpus from the co-occurring statistics. So if the two words are co-occurring, then their basically vector representations would be quite similar. So basically these word embeddings models are pretend on the text corpus from the co-occurring statistics. So word embeddings are applied in a context-free manner. So solution train contextual representations on text corpus so that words can see themselves. So basically the idea is that we have to train the contextual representations on text corpus so that words can see themselves. So basically this is our BART model. So BART is a language model. So basically BART is trained so that you know that given a particular sentence, it can predict the next sentence. Or suppose in a particular sentence some words are masked. So basically maybe you have not written some words. So in the output you can expect those masked words. So basically input you can see that input is my dog is cute and he likes playing. So basically in the output you have to basically somehow predict this. So we have to basically predict the next sentence, or there could be some mask words. So basically those mask words can be predicted in the output. So this BART model, this BART model basically takes the token embeddings as the input, the segment embedding. The segment embedding is basically the position. Basically, there are two segments. My dog is cute is one segment, and he likes playing is another segment. So this my dog is cute. All these words are represented by the EA, basically the segment embedding A, and he likes playing is basically represented by the EB. And then there is this position embeddings. So position embeddings basically denote the position of a particular word in a particular sentence. So all these embeddings are taken as an input to the BART model. So we have the token embeddings, segment embeddings, position embeddings. So all these are concatenated together and those are given as an input to the BART model. So then basically this is the transformer model. So you know that transformer model basically takes the position encoding, and then there is this attention vector. So the task of the attention is to focus on some part of the sentence. So like my dog is cute. So maybe here the one important word is the cute. So basically the other words will not be given focus, but only the important words will be given focus. And that is the task of the self attention. That attention basically gives importance to some words of a particular sentence, and those basically words were given more weightage while we are basically computing the weighted vectors. So this is our basically the proposed model, the proposed fine-tuned BART model. So there is this BART. So as I mentioned, the full form of BART is bidirectional encoder transformer. So basically this BART model is a language processing model, and this BART model is basically can be used for solving several natural language processing tasks like question answering, name recognition, then any task of natural language processing can be solved using the BART model. So finally, what we have done, we have added basically a multi-layer perceptron. So basically, it is a dense layer followed by the softmax function. So this this is basically added to use BART as a classification model. So basically, BART will give us the representation of a particular sentence. So and that sentence representation is basically passed through this fully connected layers, and finally there is a softmax layer. This softmax layer will give us the probability. So in our case, there are mainly two classes, Boolean and the non-Boolean. So basically the BART model is basically used to get the sentence embedding. So the whole sentence will be basically represented in the semantic space. So it will basically represent the sentence into the semantic space, and it will give us a semantic embedding. So that semantic embedding is basically given to this fully dense layer, and then finally there is the softmax layer. The softmax will give us the probability. So in general, here there are two classes, Boolean and the non-Boolean. So softmax will give us the probability of that what is the probability that particular sentence belongs to the class Boolean or the non-Boolean. So these are the data sets that we have collected. So from the Twitter, we have collected the data set, and there are three classes: racism, sexism, and none. Okay, so basically, bullying can be done based on the racism, or bullying can be done based on the sexism, or maybe it is not at all bullying at all. So basically, this is a distribution. So you can see the data set is very much biased. So there are very less instances of the bullying. So racism plus sexism basically constitute the bully class. So there are only 5,000 number of examples of the bullying class, and there are 11,000 number of examples of the non-bullying class. Then for the Wikipedia, there are two classes, attack and the non-attack. So again, you can see 13,000 instances are the attack class, and 1,02,000 instances are the non-attack class. So there are total 1,15,000 instances. Then there is this Formspring. So for bullying is only 776, and non-bullying is almost 11,000, and total is 12,773. So basically in the Twitter, there are three classes. From the Wikipedia, there are two classes, and from Formspring, there are two classes. And these are the results. So basically we have used the BART. As I mentioned, that BART is basically used as a classification model. So initially BART is used to generate the sentence embeddings, and finally those sentence embeddings are passed through the hidden one fully connected layer followed by a softmax layer to get the probability values of the different classes. So basically BART large is giving us the this F measure scores of 96%, and on the test data we are getting 94%. And we have also compared with different models like the BiLSTM, RNN plus LSTM, CNN, logistic regression, support vector machine. So support vector machine, logistic regression, these are machine learning models. And CNN, RNN plus LSTM, BiLSTM. So all these are basically deep learning models. So the BART large is basically the larger version of the BART, and basically we have added this fully connected layer and the softmax layer to basically use the BART. Yes, any question? To use the BART for the classification purpose. So and you know that it is very much required that whenever you are using any machine learning or deep learning models, the performance varies depending on the when you are basically changing the training data. So if you are doing the tenfold cross validation, you know that in tenfold cross validation the rule is that the training data set will be divided into 10 equal parts. So in each part the distribution of the classes will be preserved. Okay, so whatever is the distribution of the original classes, that distribution will be preserved in all the 10 folds. So now the nine subsets will be merged together, and then that will be used for training the model, and the one subset will be used for the testing. So basically, this process can be basically a particular model will be trained on the nine parts together, and that will be tested on the other part, and this process will be repeated 10 times. So basically, we have computed the probability values. So you can see that these are the probability values of the different data sets, Twitter, Wikipedia, Offscreen, and these results illustrate that yes, the results obtained by BART are also statistically significant. So the differences are statistically significant. So then we also took part in the SEMeval. So SEMeval is a natural language processing. It is a kind of a shared task. So where they used to release some data, and then multiple teams or from all over the world can participate on the open data, and these teams can basically make their own model and can submit their own model, and then there could be a comparative study of those particular models. So basically, we also took part in this multilingual offensive language identification task of the SEMeval. So this was the task of the SEMeval 2020, and basically as a part of this task, they basically released some data in various languages which are offensive in nature. So basically, we have to see whether a particular sentence is offensive or non-offensive. So that was the task. So given a particular sentence, we have to detect whether a particular sentence is offensive or it is non-offensive. So these are the data set given as a part of the SEMeval. So as I mentioned, the SEMeval is a basically shared task. So what we mean by shared task? So in the NLP community, this shared task in NLP community or in the information retrieval community, these shared tasks are very common, because in the shared task, there are some organizers of the shared task, and basically as a part of the shared task, these organizers release some training data and the test data. Okay, and then multiple teams can basically participate in the shared task. So these multiple teams can register for the shared task, and then they can develop some model. So there is a particular task defined. So like sometimes the task can be the developing a machine translation model. Then sometimes the task could be developing some name data recognition model. But in this case, the task was to identify the offensive text. So basically, the organizers have released these three data sets: one Arabic data set, Greek data set, and Turkish data set. So these are the offensive and the non-offensive data sets written in these three languages. So for the Arabic, you can see that this is a distribution. For the non-offensive, there are 5,590 examples. Offensive, 1,410 examples. For the test set, non-offensive, 1,598 examples. Offensive, 402 examples. So there are total 9,000 examples of the Arabic language. Then for the Greek, there are total 10,000 examples. For the Turkish, there are 35,000 examples. So basically, that this is our proposed model. So we have the tweet text. We basically remove the noise. Then we have normalized the text. So why tweet normalization? Because you can see that in tweets there are many abbreviations. So in tweets, because there is a restriction in the number of characters in the tweet, so people often use many abbreviations, short forms in the tweet. So basically those short forms are basically removed. Those short forms are basically changed by the long forms. So that is a tweet normalization. And then we have also basically removed the noises, and the hashtags, those are basically removed. So this is called the cleaning of the text. So this is a kind of a pre-processing step. So we are basically removing the noises. We are basically removing the abbreviations are converted into the long form. Short forms are converted into the long form. Hashtags are basically removed, and this way we are basically filling the data. And then there is a embedding layer. So we can use any word embedding technique to generate the vector representation of the tweet. So there is a tweet to vec, or there is this BART embedding, or there is this globe embedding. So any kind of embedding techniques can be used to convert the tweet data into a vector representation, and then that embedding is basically passed through some classification layers, and finally the classification layer is basically identifying the class level. So here you can see that for here in most of this in these three data sets there are two classes, non-offensive and the offensive. So basically the class prediction there will be two classes, offensive and non-offensive. So this is the data pre-processing and our model. So we developed two models. One is based on the support vector machine. Support vector machine is basically a machine learning based model. So you know support vector machine, the task of the support vector machine is to maximize the margin. So it basically assumes there are two classes. It can only solve the binary classification problem, and then it tries to maximize the margin between the two classes. And also we have developed the CNN plus LSTM. This CNN plus LSTM is a deep learning based model. So this model is also used to for solving this offensive language identification problem. So you can see that SVM performs better than the CNN plus LSTM. So SVM attains the F1 score of 54%, and the CNN plus LSTM attains the F1 score of 48%. So you can see this is the basically the confusion matrix. So many of the non-Boolean classes are basically labeled as the Boolean. So that is the problem here. So for the Greek dataset, again, the SVM performs better than the CNN plus LSTM. So SVM attains 0.49% F1 score. CNN plus LSTM attains 0.45%. And again, you can see that there are some confusions. And for the Turkish dataset, SVM again attains the 0.64% and CNN plus LSTM attains the 0.44%. So in our basically these are the as I mentioned that these are the results or some global data sets. So you can see that these are the data sets containing some Arabic text, Greek text, target text. Okay, so these are some global data sets, and the data sets are released by the organizers. So organizers have collected basically the offensive text from these languages. So then we basically worked on as I mentioned that during the COVID time, there were many cyberbullying cases, events happening. So because of the COVID situations, people were basically bullying the people who were basically suffering from the COVID-19. So basically, this COVID-19 and cyberbullying is we have seen that during the COVID timing there are many cyberbullying instances, and we have basically tried to collect those instances and build our own data set. And after that, we have built our own deep ensemble based model to identify the cyberbullying during the pandemic. So basically, how to collect data? So because the idea is to collect some tweets which are related to which are basically which are basically written during the COVID-19 pandemic, and which contain some bullying comments. So leveraging Twitter's streaming API and TweetPy to follow specific keywords and account that are trending at this current pandemic. So we have collected some data sets from basically from different sources for the Twitter only. So leveraging Twitter streaming API and TweetPy to follow specific keywords and account that are trending at this current pandemic. So these are the keywords that we have used: the coronavirus, COVID-19, lockdown, coronavirus Delhi, coronavirus outbreak, coronavirus pandemic. So these are the keywords which are used to collect data from the Twitter. So the annotation process is as follows. Start with manually annotated small set of tweet instances. So we have started with the manually annotated small set of tweet instances. Then we have trained the text classifiers on these annotated instances. So we have trained the text classifier on these annotated instances, and then we have repeated. So basically it is a kind of active learning. So it was very difficult to annotate the all the examples, because we have collected around, that we have collected a large amount of data from the Twitter. So around 22,000 instances we have collected from the Twitter. So it is very difficult to manually annotate all these 22,000. So what we have done, we have initially annotated a small portion of the training data. So we have collected the equal number of instances from the Boolean class and the non-Boolean class, and then basically we have tried to annotate them manually. Now this manually annotated small data set is basically used to train the classifier. So we have used different deep learning classifiers for the purpose of training. So we have trained the text classifiers on these annotated instances. Now there is we have to repeat some for the end steps. Select the next set of the most promising instances of tweets using entropy. So basically, there is a next set of the most promising instances of tweets using entropy. So suppose we have suppose initially we have suppose 1000 number of examples. So now we have basically trained using 1000 number of examples, and we are testing on the 21,000 examples. So what we will be doing, we'll be testing this 1000 examples will be used to train the model, and then this model trained model will be used for testing the 21,000 number of tweets. So we'll be predicting the output tags of this 21,000 number of tweets, and now we have to see the basically we have to see the entropy. So if the suppose for a particular instance the entropy is basically very high, then in that case that means the system is very much uncertain about the output of this particular samples. In that case, that particular sample will be manually annotated. Otherwise, if for a particular test instance, if that for a corresponding entropy is very low, it is less than some threshold, then that instance will not be basically manually annotated. We'll be using the annotation given by the model itself, and then we will add that in the training data. Okay, so basically that is the thing. It is called the active learning. So initially we will start with a manually annotated small set of tweet instances. So if we have 22,000 number of examples, maybe we can initially manually annotate 1,000 number of examples, and then this 1000 number of example then the trained model can be used to test the 21,000 number of examples. So now for some examples we'll get a very high value of entropy. So in that case those tweets will be manually annotated, and the tweets with low entropy below a threshold are labeled by the predicted tags of the model. So basically that this way basically we are in an active learning fashion. We have added more data in the training process. So select the next set of the most promising instances of tweets using entropy, where we rank the instances by their prediction entropy, and only pick the top instances which have highest entropy values. These tweets are manually annotated. Tweets with entropy value below a threshold are labeled by the predicted tags of the model. Then we have trained the model on all tweet instances selected so far. We have to evaluate the trained model on the test set. So this is the end of the annotation process. So this way, in an active learning fashion, we have generated more training data. So this is the basically that this is our figure. We can see that when we are using the active learning and when we are using the random, then what is the F1 score? So random sampling means randomly we are selecting few examples and then we are manually annotating those examples and we are adding them to the training data, and then again we are testing the data, testing the model. We are training the model on the new training data and we are testing the model on the test data. So that is basically called the random learning. So basically there are two things. One is called the active learning and there is the random. So basically in the active learning, so we are carefully selecting some examples which can be manually tagged, and then we are basically adding those examples in training data. We are building our model on the training data and we are basically testing our model on the test data. But in case of random sampling, we are randomly selecting few examples, and then those are basically manually annotated, and then those examples are added to the training data to build the model. And once the model is ready, it can be tested on the test data. So this is the curve. So you can see when we are using the active learning, there is much performance improvement compared to the random sampling. So the very detail of our final code switch dataset can be seen in the following table. So here you can see that this is the dataset statistics. Number of Boolean posts is 9,921. Non-Boolean is there are very much number of non-Boolean posts. 12,759 number of non-Boolean posts are there, and total number of instances are 22,680. So basically number of Boolean posts are 9,921, non-Boolean posts are 12,759, and total number of instances are 22,680. So this is the distribution of the Boolean and the non-Boolean categories. So this is our proposed methodology. So there is an input layer. Input layer is basically the set of tweets. Then there is an embedding layer. So this embedding layer will generate the embedding of the tweet. Then there is a dropout layer. So dropout layer will basically drop out some connections. And finally, there is this deep neural network. So deep neural network is basically consisting of the dropout layer, fully connected layer, and the software classification. So this is the overall architecture. So as a classification, we have used the different classifiers and basically different combinations of the classifiers. So this is the general architecture that we have used across 4 deep learning models. So there we have used the 4 deep learning models: multi-layer perceptron, convolution neural network, Bayes stem with the attention layer, bidirectional encoder representations for the transformer or BART that I have already discussed, and deep ensemble. So basically we here for the as a deep learning network, we have used the multi-layer perceptron, we have used the convolutional neural network, Bayes stem with the attention layer, bidirectional encoder representations for the transformer, and the deep ensemble network. So these are the models. So these are the results you can see. MLP multi-layer perceptron is giving us 76% F1 score. Convolutional neural network is giving us 79% F1 score. BLSTM with attention is giving us the 79% F1 score. BART with fine tuning is giving us 81% F1 score. BART fine tuning plus the handcrafted feature. So when we have also added some handcrafted feature in the BART model. So and then that is giving us the 86% accuracy F1 score. And when we are doing an ensemble, basically we are taking the combination of all the models, then that ensemble is giving us 93% F1 score. So basically ensemble basically combines the efficacies of the multiple models. So this is the these are our basically that this is the our work on the for the COVID-19 data set. So basically, as I mentioned, that we have collected data focusing on this particular keywords which are related to the COVID-19. So this coronavirus, COVID-19 lockdown, coronavirus Delhi, coronavirus outbreak, coronavirus pandemic. So all these keywords or the hashtags are related to coronavirus, and by using this, we have basically collected some data of cyberbullying types related to the COVID-19. And then we have used an active learning based technique to annotate the data set. So basically, you know that manually annotating all the examples is very much time consuming task. So that's why you have utilized the task of basically active learning. So initially we have manually annotated few examples, and then the rest of the examples are annotated by using an active learning technique. So basically we have selected the examples with high entropy values, and then those examples are basically those examples are basically manually tagged. Other examples are basically tagged by the output levels predicted by the model. So this was our work on the COVID-19 dataset and for the cyberbullying related to the COVID-19 dataset. In our next work, we worked on the multimodal cyberbullying. So as I mentioned that sometimes what happens that when you are there are some social media platforms like Vine is a very popular social media platform. So this Vine basically contains some videos. So basically, you know that sometimes people used to upload some videos as a post. So maybe the videos contain some cyberbullying. Okay, so can we detect the cyberbullying from the videos? And maybe sometimes suppose a user has uploaded a video and the other users are basically commenting on the particular video. So we have the two modalities present. We have the video information and we also have the comments associated with the videos. So by considering these two information, the videos and the comments associated with the video, can we predict whether that particular video is of bullying type or not? And also how early. So basically we are extracting some information from the videos, and there are multiple comments. So can we do a early prediction of the cyberbullying? Like suppose that there are 5 comments, 10 comments, 15 comments. So how early basically we can say that a particular comment, a particular post is of bullying type. So that is basically called the multimodal cyberbully identification. So the dataset name is basically called the Vine. So Vine, in the Vine it is also a social media platform. Now it is not very popular, but it was initially basically launched, and there are many user accounts, and users can basically upload some videos as a part of their post. So from this Vine, we have collected basically a manually annotated data set is collected, which is comprising of the video, audio, and the text modalities. So basically there are some videos, and each video is basically having some comments. So suppose a user has posted the video and the other users are now commenting on the video. Okay, so basically that is the task of this particular that is a particular task. It is a multimodal cyberbully detection. So we are now not only relying on the comments but also on the video, like the visual contents and also the audio contents. So this is the overall data analysis about the data. So the total number of videos is equal to 969. Number of bullying videos is 304. Number of empty or the missing video files is equal to 130. Number of bullying videos within missing files is basically equal to 35. So total number of videos is equal to 969. Number of bullying videos is 304. Number of empty or missing video files is 130. Number of bullying videos within missing files is 35. So you know that now we have to analyze the video data as well as the comments. So there are two modalities. We have the video data and we also have the comments associated with these videos. So basically somehow we need to extract information from the videos as well as from the comments. So from the comments, we have used the universal sentence encoder. So universal sentence encoder is one embedding technique which again takes the sentence as an input and it basically produces the embedding vector representation of the sentence in the semantic space. So universal sentence encoder has been used to generate good text embedding with rich semantic information. The universal sentence encoder encodes text into higher dimensional vectors that can be used for text classification, semantic similarity clustering, and other natural language processing tasks. So basically the universal sentence encoder encodes text into higher dimensional vectors that can be used for the text classification, semantic similarity clustering, and other natural language processing tasks. So the universal sentence encoder is basically an embedding technique. It basically converts the vector into the embedding representation. So basically, you know that these vectors are basically now somehow basically the words are basically converted into the vector representations. So basically this universal sentence encoder gives us a vector of size of 512 dimension. So the embedding generated have 512 dimension embedding size. Then it is reduced from 512 dimension to 2D using PCA decomposition algorithm. So the PCA is basically applied on this 512 dimension embedding size, and then it is basically reduced to the 2D size by PCA. So this is the graphical representation. You can see that Boolean versus non-Boolean word embedding generated using universal sentence encoder. So you can see there is a high overlapping. So if you see the sentence representation, sentence embedding representations in a 2D space. So as I mentioned that by the universal sentence encoder, we are getting the 512 dimensional vector representation of a particular sentence. And then we have used the PCA. So PCA is a featured selection technique. So basically PCA converts the high dimensional data into a lower dimension. So after application of the PCA, we are able to get a two-dimensional representation of each sentence. And then this is the distribution of the data. So you can see that this is the distribution of the Boolean versus non-Boolean word embeddings. So Boolean versus non-Boolean word embeddings generated using the universal sentence encoder. So text has been processed in their chronological order, that is in the order each comment is posted against and video. So as I mentioned, there is a video and there is a set of comments. So now we have to also see how early we can detect the cyberbullying. So you know we are categorized the comments into different groups. So top 5 comments, top 10 comments, top 15 comments. So we have shown experimentally so how the accuracy is improving if we are considering more number of comments. So basically how early we can detect the cyberbullying. So we are considering the comments in a chronological order. In the order each comment is posted against a video. In order to early identify, we first have considered 5 comments for each of the post, then 10 comments, and eventually the 15 comments. So this residual BiLSTM is another popular deep learning based technique. So this BiLSTM can see the left and the right portion of the text. So basically this BiLSTM is very popular if you want to see the context. So suppose there is a particular word, and if you want to see both the left and the right words co-occurring with a particular word, then the BiLSTM is very popular. So the residual BiLSTM architecture has been used for the text classification task. So this is our architecture. So this is our residual BiLSTM block. So the residual BiLSTM is basically used for solving this particular for solving the text classification problem. So this is our overall architecture. So we have the videos. From the videos, we are basically selecting the frames. So you know the video can be decomposed into several frames, and then we are basically selecting some frames to represent the video. So each frame is nothing but an image. So each frame can be considered as a static image, and then it is basically passing through the CNN, convolutional neural network based classifier, to get the embedding the representations of the image. So this representation contains some features for the particular image. So basically, you know that this is the thing that we are having this the visual embeddings are mapped to a particular portion of the space, and the text embeddings are also projected in a particular portion of the space, and somehow then we have to map these two embeddings in the common space. So basically we have to somehow map, because vector representation this image embeddings are generated by some other models, and the text embeddings are generated by some other models. So the universal sentence encoder is used for generating the text embeddings, and the convolutional neural network is used for generating the image embeddings. And then basically we are projecting representing the embeddings in a high, basically in this way. Those representations are different, so somehow we have to use some transformation to project both the embeddings into the common space. And then there is this information fusion. So information fusion can be done in two different ways. Either we can do the feature level fusion. So in the feature level fusion, the features from the different modalities are basically combined together, and then those are passed through the basically those are basically passed through some dense layers and followed by the softmax. In the decision level fusion, we have the two different models. One model is based on the text, another model is based on the videos. So from the text-based model, we are getting some decision. From the video-based model, we are getting the decision. So here decision is whether the particular post is bullying or non-bullying. So by considering the video, we will get the bully or the non-bully categories. And also by considering the text, we will be getting the bully and the non-bully categories. And finally, we are doing the basically a fusion or a majority voting. So utterances from both textual and video content of a post are fused to capture meaningful multimodal information. So we have focused on the early detection of bullying based on the visual modality. So from the generated image frames, so 30 frames of each video has been extracted by selecting a frame at a regular interval. Okay, so basically, as I mentioned, that video is a collection of frames. So from each video, we have selected 30 frames. So 30 frames of each video have been extracted by selecting a frame at a regular interval. So we have used the Inception ResNet V2. This is also a CNN convolutional neural network based model. So this Inception ResNet V2 model is used to extract the features of each frame due to its exceptional performance in the task of image classification. So this Inception ResNet V2 is a very popular deep learning based model used for several image processing applications. So this Inception ResNet V2 model is used to extract the image features. And then recurrent CNN architecture has been used for the image classification task. So then, as I mentioned, that there are two different ways of fusing the information, because there are two modalities. We have the video modality, we have the text modality. So we have fused the information collected from the video and the text modalities in two different ways. One is called a feature level fusion. So in the feature level fusion, we are extracting the features from the text, and then we are extracting the features from the image from the images. Then somehow we have to project them on the shared space. So as I have shown that because we are using different models, so this Inception is used for extracting the image features, and the universal sentence encoder is used for extracting the features from the text data. So as there are different models, so basically the embedding representations are also different. So those are projected on different spaces. So basically somehow we have to do some transformations, and then we have to basically convert these representations into a shared space. So that we have to do. And finally, when we are having these shared space representations, then basically those can be concatenated together to basically and then that feature vector will pass through some fully connected layers followed by the softmax layer. So in this in a future level fusion strategy, in this information fusion strategy, features from each independent modality are extracted, which are then combined together in order to get a single set of features. And in decision level future, there are two different models. One model is based on the text, another model is based on the video. So from the text-based model, we will get some prediction. From the video-based model also, we will get some prediction. And then we have done a majority voting, or we have done a consensus. So we have features from each modality are examined and classified independently, and the result then fused as decision vector in order to get the final decision. So this is the generalized architecture for the feature level fusion. So you can see that we are using this universal sentence encoder to get the representations from the text. So we have the comments. So from the comments, we are getting the embedding representations of the comments using the universal sentence encoder. Then there are some video features. So from the videos, we are collecting the frames. So 30 frames are collected from each video, and then Inception V2 is which is a CNN based model is basically used to extract the features from those frames. And then there is attention fusion. So basically, as I mentioned, that attention is helping us to provide more weightage to certain portion of the input. So like based on the videos, maybe we can give emphasis on certain portion of the text data, and based on the text data also, maybe we can give emphasis on certain portion of the video data. So there is this attention fusion framework, and finally the classification and the prediction. So the classification is basically, that if there is a classification layer, it is a basically multi-layer perceptron, and then there is a prediction layer. And in case of decision level fusion, we are treating these modalities separately. So from the text modality, we have extracted the embeddings, and then there is a text classifier. So the text classifier is only considering the text embeddings, and then it is producing the output. So it is producing the output, basically some output. And now the video frames are also given to a video classifier, which is predicting some output. And now these outputs are combined enough, and then those are passed through some basically some higher layers, and finally followed by the softmax layer to predict the output. So this is basically the decision level fusion. So these, as I mentioned, that we have performed experiments at how early we are able to predict the cyberbullying. So what is happening when we are considering only 5 comments or the 10 comments or the 15 comments in a chronological order. So comments are considered one by one in a chronological order, and then we are trying to see what is the impact of more number of comments. So like you can see that when we are considering the 5 comments, then the bully class accuracy is only 0.34. When we are considering the 10 comments, the bully class F measure score goes up to 0.61. And when we are considering 15 comments, the F measure score of bully class is 0.71. So gradually, the F measure score of the bully class is increasing. So with only 5 comments, it was very unlikely. So only in 0.34% case, so if score value of the bullying class was only 0.34. With 10 comments, it is 0.61, and with 15 comments, it is 0.71. So this is the basically the results of the image classification. So we have extracted 30 frames from each image, and the classifier is basically recurrent CNN. And for the for the non-bullying, the F measure score is 76%, but for the bullying, the F1 score is only 23%. So you can see that this based on the video data, we are not able to classify properly the bullying class. The F1 score value of the bullying class is very less compared to the non-bullying class. So this is the feature level fusion. So when we are combining the two modalities together, then you can see that for the recurrent CNN, the F1 score is 0.62. For BILSTM recurrent CNN, the F1 score is 0.69. For residual BILSTM plus recurrent CNN, the accuracy is basically 0.72. So these are decision level fusions. So for the decision level fusion, for the non-bullying class, the F1 score value is 0.78, but for the bullying class, F1 score is 0.41. So basically, these are the results of our multimodal cyberbullying detection. So basically, as I mentioned that we worked with the Vine dataset. And Vine dataset is consisting of the videos and the text. And then from this Vine dataset, you can see that from the Vine dataset only, we have from the videos we have extracted the frames, and then frames are converted into images, and from the images we have extracted some important features. And similarly from the text means the comments associated with the videos. So each video is basically associated with multiple comments. So we have considered the comments in a chronological way. So first we have considered the 5 comments, then the 10 comments, then the 15 comments in a chronological fashion. And then you can see that we have projected these comments in the common space. So in a shared space, we have projected this video and the comments. And then finally, we have used some classifiers, the feed forward, some basically fully connected layers followed by the softmax layer for the prediction. So now I will discuss about the work on the code mixing. So as I mentioned that in recent years we have also worked on some Indian language syllable detection task. So till now whatever I have shown are mostly in the English and also in basically in some global languages like Arabic, Turkish, etc. So basically we took part in a competition, and as a part of the competition some data sets were released in different languages, and basically we developed our deep learning based models for those languages. So till now I have discussed about the syllable detection on especially focusing on the English language. So now I will discuss about how can we develop the models for the syllable detection focusing on the Indian languages. So you know that state-of-the-art research primarily concentrates on syllable detection from the English language. So basically, you know that indigenous languages have not been given much attention due to the lack of proper data sets. And code mixing is a process of fluid alternation between two or more languages in a conversation. So basically, you know, if you are multilingual, then there is a common tendency that when we are talking or when we are writing in the social media, especially social media is an informal platform, when we are writing informally, we often switch between the multiple languages. So suppose we are writing something in English and then some words are not, I am not aware of some words in English, so I may switch to Hindi. So code mixing is the process of fluid alternation between two or more languages in a conversation. So India is a country with second largest internet users. There are 734 million people and huge language diversity. So India is a country with second largest internet users and huge language diversity. So in India, the majority of text conversations in social media platform are in the form of Hindi, English and the English. Okay, so if you see the Indian social media platforms, the Twitter most of the Twitter users of Indian, you will see that mostly they are basically conversing in the Hindi language or in the English language or in the English language. So English is the code mixed language. It is a combination of two languages, Hindi and the English. So with the help of the basically what we did, we found, we basically searched a lot in the we did a thorough literature survey, but we did not find any data set available in the code mix version. Okay, so we did not find any data set which is focused on which is having the code mix data, which is basically having the cyberbullying instances, but that too in the code mix scenario, and focusing on the women and child safety. So basically, we are working with Ministry of Home Affairs on a particular project on women and child safety. So as a part of this project, we have basically collected this data set. So this data set basically contains some code mixed. This data set basically contains some code mixed data sets. So with the help of Twitter Streaming API and Twitter Search API, we collect tweets from the Twitter. So we have scraped approximately 90,000 raw tweets between July 2020 to November 2020 based on specific hashtags and keywords related to the women's attack like Me Too, Justice for Sushant Singh Rajput, nepotism, India against abuse, Alia Bhatt, beach, etc. So basically we have collected like 90,000 raw tweets. This is the duration from July 2020 to November 2020, and we have used the specific hashtags and the keywords like the women's attack, Me Too, Justice for Sushant Singh Rajput, nepotism, India against abuse, Alia Bhatt, etc. So then we have designed a filter to remove the irrelevant tweets based on the following criteria. If a tweet is duplicate, if only the URL is used in a tweet, every tweet but the Hindi, English and English tweets, if the length of the tweet is below 10 characters, if only a few user references are used in a tweet. So basically we have designed a filter to remove irrelevant tweets based on the following criteria. So basically we have designed a filter to remove irrelevant tweets based on the following criteria. If the tweet is a duplicate, or if only the URL is used in a tweet, or every tweet but the Hindi, English and the English tweets, if the length of the tweet is below 10 characters, if only a few user references are used in a tweet. So then this is that, two human annotators having linguistic background and proficiency in both Hindi and English. Basically, they carried out the data annotation task. And this is our class distribution. Non-bullying is having 2,456 examples and bullying is having 2,606 examples. So you can see this is the distribution of the classes and this is the distribution of the bullying class and the non-bullying class. So you can see that this is the distribution of the two classes. So, so basically these are the distribution. These are some examples of the annotated data set. So you can see that these are the all written in the code mix. कुछ बंगाली के साथ बंगाली से बात किया कर फिर मैं भी गुवाहाटी गए थे एक बार ब्यूटीफुल प्लेस है. So I went to Guwahati after discussing with few Bengali people. It's a beautiful place. So it is of non-bullying. But see this example, औरत मर्द बराबर है ये मॉडर्न कॉन्सेप्ट निकल दो खुद का दिमाग से. Women and men are all equal. Let this modern concept leap from mind itself. So this is a kind of a bullying example. Then तुम इतने सिंपल हो इसीलिए सब तुमको बनाते हैं. So basically that you are so simple, that's why everyone makes you fool. So this is a non-bullying example. So these are some examples of the bullying and the non-bullying type. So then what we have done, we have basically developed a BART plus capsule architecture for the bullying detection. So as I mentioned already, that BART is basically is a language model. I have already mentioned in my previous works. So BART is a bilingual encoded representation of transformer. So it is a transformer based model which is a deep learning based language model. It basically generates the embeddings. So you give some word as a input and you will get the embedding representation of the word. So we have used the Moodle BART, which is called the multilingual representations for the Indian languages. So this is basically developed by the Google India. So this Moodle BART is for the Indian languages. So BART is mostly for the English languages. So BART basically produces the embedding for the English languages. But if you want to get the embeddings for the Indian languages, then we need to use the Moodle BART. So the full form of the Moodle BART is the bilingual representations for the Indian languages. So this Moodle BART is written on 17 Indian languages and they are transliterated counterparts. So then basically this Moodle BART is basically used for generating the embedding representations of the Indian languages. So we have also used the n-gram convolutional layer. The output from the BART model is then passed through convolutional layers to extract the n-gram feature map. And then we have also used the bidirectional GRU layer to learn semantic dependency based features. We passed convoluted feature vector through a bidirectional gated recurrent unit. And we also have used the capsule network. So this capsule network has gained much attention not only in the computer vision domain but also in the NLP domain due to its ability to learn hierarchical relationships between consecutive layers by using an iterative dynamic routing strategy. So this capsule network has gained much attention not only in the computer vision domain but also in NLP domain due to its ability to learn hierarchical relationships between the consecutive layers by using an iterative dynamic routing strategy. So this is our proposed architecture. You can see that there is a BART model. This is called the Moodle BART. So this Moodle BART is basically giving us the embeddings of the Indian languages. So the input sentence is having, many input sentence can have the Hindi, English or the English. So the Moodle BART is basically used to get the embeddings representations of the Hindi language. And then there is a CNN, then the GRU, and finally the capsule. So it is a basically hybrid model. It is a combination of multiple deep learning based models. So we are using the BART for the embedding representations. Then we are passing through the CNN layers to get some character-based character level features. So CNN is very popularly used to generate the character level features. Then there is a GRU layer. This is a basically bidirectional GRU. So it basically captures the context. And then there is a capsule network which basically captures the spatial information. So all these, so it is a hybrid layer, and finally there is a classification layer. So there are two classes, bullying and the non-bullying. So we have introduced the following baselines for the comparison. So BART embedding is directly given to the support vector machine. So this is our baseline 1. Then the BART embedding is also given to the logistic regression. That is our baseline 2. BART embedding is basically given to the naive-based classification. This is our baseline 3. BART embedding is given to the random forest. This is our baseline 4. BART embedding is given to the LSTM, long short-term memory network, which is a deep learning-based model. That is baseline 5. BART embedding is given to the convolutional neural network. That is baseline 6. BART is basically embedding is given to CNN plus capsule. That is the baseline 7. BART is given embedding is given to LSTM plus capsule. That is baseline 8. And then BART embedding is given to a GRU plus capsule. That is baseline 9. So these are our results. So you can see that this is our proposed model, BART plus CNN plus GRU plus capsule. So this is a hybrid model, and this model is basically giving us the accuracy of 79.28%, F1 score of 80.30%. So you can see this is giving us the highest accuracy and the highest F1 score. So compared to the different baselines, you can see that this proposed model is giving us the highest accuracy and the highest F1 score values. So in this work, we have developed a benchmark corpus for solubility identification against children and women in code mix Indian languages. So we have developed a model based on 4 deep learning models, BART, CNN, GRU, and the capsule. And we have experimented with the inclusion of a capsule network with other deep learning models. So we have examined that the inclusion of capsule networks with other deep learning models significantly enhances the classifier's performance. So experimental results showed that our model produced better results than all other baselines by a significant margin. So in future, we would like to develop a multitasking framework for solubility detection where sentiment and emotion detection can act as the auxiliary task. So as I mentioned that in solubility detection, sentiment and emotion play a very important role. Because you know that for the sentiment, if the sentiment is negative and emotion is also sad, anger or the disgust, then maybe the corresponding tweet is also a bully type. So basically there is a correlation between the sentiment and the emotion levels with the bullying category. So basically we have solved the 3 tasks together, but the sentiment detection, emotion recognition, and the solubility detection. So this is a multitasking framework. We have tried to solve these 3 tasks. So now we have also worked on the another architecture which is called the VAPE map. So this VAPE map is also very popularly used for handling the code mix data. So as I mentioned that if the dataset is having multiple languages, then the first task is to identify the languages, and then you have to generate the embeddings of the different different languages. So basically, you know, the Moodle BART. Moodle BART is basically is a BART model trained on 17 Indian languages, and these 17 Indian languages are somehow projected in the same shared space. So the embeddings of the 17 Indian languages are basically projected on the same space. So either we can use the Moodle-BART or we can use the VecMap approach, which is also very popularly used for solving the code mixing problem. So VecMap is a self-learning bilingual word embedding mapping technique developed by this particular researcher. So it is a self-learning bilingual word embedding mapping. So if you have two languages and if you have the embedding representations of these two languages, so in order to map these representations in a shared space, we can use the VecMap approach. So it is a self-learning bilingual word embedding mapping technique. So the underlying idea is to separately train the embeddings of source and target languages using monolingual corpora, and then using a linear transformation matrix align them to align them to a shared vector space where similar words are placed together. Okay, so the underlying idea is to separately train the embeddings of source and target languages using monolingual corpora, and then using a linear transformation matrix align them to a shared vector space where similar words are placed together. So this is our proposed architecture. So we have this, that these are the now token embedding, the sequence embedding, and the position embedding. And then there is this Moodle-BART model. So basically, this Moodle-BART takes the token embedding, the sequence embedding, and the position embedding. So all these embeddings are combined together and given the Moodle-BART, and then we are passing those embeddings through the CNN layers. Then there is this English to Devanagari converter. So then this is the English Hindi aligned embedding space. So this is the common space. So first we are transferring the English to the Devanagari converter, because the script has to be changed. So maybe there are some words written in the Hindi script. There are some words written. There are some Hindi words which are written in English script. So we to identify the languages, we first need to transfer those. We have to make a script transfer. So the English words have to be transferred into Devanagari script. So the English to Devanagari converter has to be basically we have to first transfer the scripts, and then there is a alignment common embedding space. English Hindi align embedding space. So it is a VecMap. So that after this mapping, cat and billy will be placed together, pen and column would be placed together, bird and the chiria would be placed together. So the representations of the bird would be very much similar to the representation of the chiria. The representation of the cat would be similar to the representation of the billy. The representation of the pen would be similar to the representation of the column. So this is basically the bilingual embedding, bilingual mapping. So first we will be generating the embeddings for the Hindi languages and the English languages, and then by the use of a dictionary, we will make a transformation. So the embedding spaces will be transformed and they will be basically aligned to the same shared space. And then this is the embedding matrix, and finally it will pass through the CNN. So CNN is used to identify some character level features. And finally, basically, all these features are concatenated. So some features we will obtain some features from the BART model. Some features we will get from this VecMap model. Then those will be concatenated together, and then that feature vector will pass through the fully connected layer, and finally the softmax layer to identify any of the two classes, Boolean or the non-Boolean. So what is the VecMap approach? So we have used the self-training of the VecMap framework as proposed by Seven. So we have the source embedding, we have the source embedding X. So there are two languages, X and the Y. So in our case, it is the Hindi and the English. So we have the source embeddings in the Hindi languages, source embedding in the English languages. Then there is a bilingual seed dictionary. So now W is equal to learn mapping X, Y, D. So basically based on the seed dictionary, basically based on the YX, so basically we need some pair of words which are having the same meaning, like the chiria and bird, pen and column. But then basically this larki. So basically we need some pair of words and like this cat and the billy. So some pair of words are required which will constitute this seed dictionary, and with the help of this seed dictionary, the transformation will be done, and this x and y will be aligned to the same space. So this is basically the self-learning of the Vecmap framework, which is used to align the embeddings x and y on the same space. So this is the evaluation results of the cyberbully detection. So you can see that BART plus SVM is the baseline one, BART plus logistic regression, BART plus LSTM, BART plus CNN, then the VecMap plus SVM, VecMap plus LR, VecMap plus LSTM, VecMap plus CNN. So basically in our proposed architecture there are two channels. So some features are extracted using the BART CNN, and some features are extracted by using the VecMap, then the CNN. So we have used these two channel models. So basically, you know that we have examined the performance of fine-tuned Muril BART with CNN and VecMap with CNN separately, and noticed that they achieved overall accuracies of 77.63 and 76.97% respectively on the proposed dataset. Okay, so we have examined the performance of the fine-tuned Muril BART with CNN and VecMap. So we separately also we have separately applied the two channels. So as I mentioned, there are two channels of our proposed approach. So we have separately applied the two channels. So you can see that Muril BART is performing better than the VecMap. So Muril BART is giving us the accuracy of 77.63%, and the VecMap is giving us the accuracy of 76.97%. But when we are basically considering the two channel approach, then we are getting the accuracy of 80.39. So this two channel approach performs better than this unichannel approaches. So we have proposed the two-channel BART plus VecMap CNN model with the intuition that the joint optimization of channel 1, so channel 1 is our BART plus CNN and channel 2 is our VecMap plus CNN, leads to the development of a pattern classifier. So the overall accuracy of 80.39% on the proposed dataset proves the effectiveness of the proposed technique. So now in our next work, we have, as I mentioned, that we have solved the three tasks simultaneously. So emotion recognition, sentiment detection, and the basically the cyberbullying. So the idea is that sentiment and emotional state of the user, if we can somehow identify the sentiment and the user and the emotion expressed in a particular tweet, then those information can help us in identifying whether the tweet is a bullying type or the non-bullying type. So basically, we have developed a multitask, multimodal framework for sentiment and emotion-aided cyberbullying detection. So the emotional state and the sentiment of a particular person. So the emotional state and the sentiment of a particular person have significant influence on the intended content. As I mentioned that a particular person is having some emotional state and the sentiments. So this information can help us to identify the intended content. So it is a very well-known fact that a tweet marked as bully generally indicates negative sentiment. When working on related tasks, multitask learning has been beneficial as use of domain-specific knowledge in associated tasks improves the overall learning process. Okay, so the multitask learning is often beneficial compared to the single task because if the tasks are related, then there are some shared features. So there are some common features which are helpful for solving the multiple tasks. So these shared features can basically help us in improving the overall learning process. So when working on the related task, the multitask learning has been beneficial as use of domain-specific knowledge in associated tasks help in improving the overall learning process. And we can also work with the multimodal data, like we can work with the combination of text plus the other non-verbal clues like the emojis in tweets. So we can show that the text and the other non-verbal clues like the emojis in tweets can contribute to creating trustworthy classification models. So the multimodal inputs such as the combination of text plus the other non-verbal clues can contribute in creating the trustworthy classification models. So rather than relying only the text, so tweets also have the emojis present. So these emojis can also often give enough information to identify what is the correct intention of a particular user. So this work aims to design a multitask multimodal framework for cyberbully detection in Hindi English code mix data where the sentiment analysis and the emotional recognition act as the secondary of the auxiliary task to increase the performance of the primary task, that is the cyberbully detection. So basically this work aims to design a multitask multimodal framework for cyberbully detection in Hindi English code mix data where the SA plus ER act as the secondary or the auxiliary task to increase the performance of the primary task, that is the cyberbully detection. So basically we developed a new data set where it is a multimodal in nature. So here multimodality means the tweet text and the tweet emojis are present. So not only the tweet text is present, but also the emojis are also present. So with this dataset is called the Bully Sentiment Emotion dataset. So here there are some tweet text and also the emojis, and each tweet text is basically tagged with 3 categories. One for the sentiment, another for the emotion, and the third is for the cyberbullying. So we have created the bullying Senti emo dataset. We added additional 1000 tweets to the old sterile cyberbully dataset. So now there are total 6084 number of tweets. Based on the context of tweets, annotators assign 2 labels for each tweet, one for the sentiment class, positive, neutral or negative, and another for the emotion class. Based on the 6 Ekman's emotion categories, happiness, sadness, fear, surprise, anger, disgust, and the others. So basically, you know that there are two sentiment levels: positive, neutral, or the negative, and there are 6 emotion levels: happiness, sadness, fear, surprise, anger, disgust, and the others. So each tweet is basically annotated with one sentiment level, one emotion level, and either a bullying or the non-bullying type. So these are our statistics. You can see that bullying and the non-bullying, it is mostly, you know, that it is mostly equal in size. Sentiment, mostly negative sentiments are present, and disgust and the others are the, you know, these are the most common emotion categories. And these are the correlation. You can see that mostly all the negative emotion labels are tagged with the bullying class only, and here also mostly negative sentiments are tagged with the bullying class. Similarly, the anger, disgust, these emotion levels are tagged with the bullying class. So basically you can see that some categories of the emotion and some categories of sentiment levels are highly correlated with the bullying class. So in order to correctly identify the bully, we need to correctly predict the emotion and the sentiment levels of the users. So these are some examples. So स्मिता पारिक 2, उसे भी सबसे हार्ड पनिशमेंट मिलना चाहिए, किसने राइट दिया है उसे कुछ भी लिखने का. So here the sentiment class is negative, emotion class is anger, and this is a bullying class. So translation is basically Smita Parik 2 should be punished heavily, who has given her the right to write anything. Then take this exam, मतलब मैं दोनों कंडीशन में शॉक्ड ही रहा, चलोगी गुड हो गया. So I mean I was surprised by both the conditions, however something good happens to me. So here the sentiment is positive, because from the emoticons also we can easily identify the sentiment is positive. So emotion is basically surprise, and the class is basically bullying, non-bullying. So these are the examples from our data set. So our data set is having the tweet text and the emojis, and there are 3 categories. One is the sentiment class, emotion class, and the bullying class. So each tweet and the corresponding emojis are tagged with the sentiment class, emotion class, and the bullying class. So emoji, in order to extract the emoji features, we have used the emoji, which is a Python based library for extracting the visual representation of an emoji. So emoji is a Python-based library for extracting the visual representation of an emoji, mainly that of a face, object, and symbol from the tweet. So basically, we are using the emoji, which is a Python-based library to extract the features from the emoji. And we have used the emoji to vec to generate the 300 dimensional vector representation of for each of the emojis retrieved from the tweet. Then there is the attention layer. The basic principle behind the attention mechanism is to assign greater weights to the words that contribute the most to the meaning of the phrase. Okay, so the attention layers basically provides more attention. Basically, it assigns more weights, greater weights to the words that contribute the most to the meaning of the phrase. So then there is a final loss function. L is dependent on the three task-specific individual losses. So we have this sentiment-based loss, then we have the emotion-based loss, and we have the Boolean-based loss condition on the sentiment and emotion. So basically, it is a multitasking model. So we're trying to solve three tasks parallelly. So emotion recognition, sentiment detection, and the Boolean detection. So there are three losses. We have basically summed these three losses up, and then we propagated the loss value in the other parts of the network. So this is our proposed architecture. So as I mentioned, that there are two for the text portion there are two channels. One is the Moodle BART based channel, and that is the VecMap based channel. So the text is basically passed through the Moodle BART and also through the VecMap. So VecMap is basically a kind of embedding techniques. It basically it basically aligns the embedding space, and then there is this Moodle BART. So basically, we are getting the embedding representations. Then we are passing through the CNN GRU by GRU layers. And here also for the emoji, we are using the emoji to vec. We are getting the representations of the emoji. Then there's this attention vector. So attention is basically trying to put emphasis on the important words of the particular text. Then basically we are taking the concatenation of these representations. So one coming from the BART, another coming from the VecMap, third is coming from the emoji. So we are basically taking the concatenation of the representations. Then there is this task-specific dense layer. So there is one dense layer for identification of the Boolean. There are some dense layer for the identification of the sentiment class. There are some dense layers for the identification of the emotion class. So you can see these are the class-specific dense layers. So this dense layer is basically responsible for identifying whether it is Boolean or non-Boolean. These dense layers are responsible for identifying the correct sentiment present in the tweet, whether it is positive, negative, or the neutral. And these dense layers are responsible for specifying whether what is the emotion present in the tweet. Okay, and these are the shared layers. So these features are basically shared amongst all the three tasks. So from the tweet text, we are basically passing the tweet text through the Moodle BART and also through the VecMap. So Moodle BART is giving us the one vector representation, and then VecMap is also giving us the vector representation. And then emoji is basically a kind of deep learning tool. So emoji is basically passing through the emoji to vec to get the vector representation of the emoji. So all these three vector representations are somehow concatenated together, and then we are basically this is our shared features. So then these shared features are basically passed through some task specific layers. So there are three tasks. So there are three task specific layers. One for the Boolean identification, another for the sentiment detection, and third is for the emotion detection. And then we are somehow combining the errors, and then we are basically trying to fine tune the models based on the combined error. So this is our single task and the multitask model. You can see. So single task model, we can see that for the single, we have taken results on a varieties of tasks. So single task with only the BART model, single task with only the VecMap model, single task with BART plus VecMap. And also these are the three tasks: sentiment, emotion, and the cyberbullying. So we have basically taken the results of all the three tasks separately. And this is all the unimodal only using the text, and this is all the multimodal using text and the emoji both. Similarly, here also you can see we have used the multitask BART, multitask VEP map, multitask BART plus VEP map. So here also we have the sentiment and basically we have taken only sentiment and the cyberbullying task together, and here we have taken the emotion plus cyberbullying task together, and then all the three tasks all together. So basically we did a thorough ablation study. So we have shown that basically this, when we are considering only two tasks, sentiment plus cyberbullying, that too with the unimodal setting and also in the multimodal setting. So here in the unimodal setting, we are only using the text information, and in the multimodal setting, we are using text plus the emoji information. Then in the multitask model, when we are solving emotion and the cyberbullying detection together, then what is happening here when in the unimodal setting and also in the multimodal setting. Then in the multitask framework, when we are solving all the three tasks simultaneously, sentiment, emotion, and the cyberbullying, what is happening in the unimodal setting and also in the multimodal setting. So you can see that basically for the multimodal setting, you can see that our results are much better. So when you are basically solving the three tasks all together in the multimodal setting, the results are the highest. So you can see the using this two channel network, multitask plus BART plus VEC map, and also when we are solving the three tasks simultaneously and using the multimodal information like the text plus the emoji information, then we are getting the highest accuracy and the highest F1 scores. So from the result table, we can conclude that all the multitask variants outperform the single task classifiers for the cyberbullying detection, sentiment analysis, and emotion recognition task. So our proposed multitask, multimodal Moodle BART plus the VEC map performs better than the single task Moodle BART plus VEC map with the accuracy improvements of 1.94%, 4.24%, and 1.88% for the task, cyberbullying detection, emotion recognition, and sentiment analysis respectively. The results imply that sentiment and emotion knowledge enhances the performance of the cyberbullying detection task. From the result table, we can also conclude that the multitask, when we are solving the three tasks together, that is when we are solving the cyberbullying detection, sentiment, and the emotion recognition all together, that always performs better compared to the other two multitask variants, that is the multitask cyberbullying detection plus sentiment analysis and multitask cyberbullying detection and the emotion recognition. So furthermore, the multimodal framework outperforms the unimodal framework by a substantial margin, since emoji data adds some extra information to inputs which help the classifier for better prediction. So furthermore, the multimodal framework outperforms the unimodal framework by a substantial margin, since emoji data adds some extra information to the inputs which help the classifier for better prediction. So basically, this is our work on the cyberbullying detection. Now, I would like to discuss about some of our recent work on the hate speech detection. So you know that hate speech also it is also a very important task, because often in the Twitter or in the social media platforms there are many hate speeches. So basically, we have worked on the hate speech detection from the in a multimodal setting. So I hope my you are able to see my slides.
Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Yes. So basically, yes, so this is called the multimodal hate speech detection. So basically, I will talk on if you have images and the text both. Like from the Twitter, suppose you have collected the images and the text both, then how can we solve the hate speech detection problem? So you know that hate speech, there is no general legal definition of hate speech, although it can be understood as any kind of communication in speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group. So basically, there is no legal definition of the hate speech, and you can see that. So there is no legal definition of the hate speech. So there are several effects of the hate speech like the hate crimes, depression, ethnic cleansing, public shooting, riots. These are the different effects of the hate speech. So can we automatically determine hate speech from the social media platform? So problem of hate speech in social media. So basically you can see that how this is the data. So how the number of instances in the hate speech is increasing over different social media platforms. So in our proposed work, we have used the we have used the multimodal binary classification of the hate speech in the context of text plus image plus text and video plus text. So basically, first we have worked on the multimodal hate speech detection in images with the noisy text. So Twitter is basically a kind of example of a noisy text. So we have solved our hate speech detection problem from the noisy text with the presence of the images. And then from the video plus text, early detection of hate speech in the videos with the associated comments. So this is our multimodality. So suppose we not only have the text written, but we also have the images. So basically my neighbor's pig is sad today. So basically, this is not hate, but this is a hate. Okay. Then stop racism, black and white children are the same. This is not hate, but this is hate. So basically you can see that the uses of from the text only, if you are only considering the text, you will not be able to understand correctly whether it is hate or not hate. But if you consider the text and the image both, then you will be able to correctly predict whether that particular example is hate or not hate. So here you can see that the text remains same, but when there is a change in the image, we can easily say whether the corresponding instance is a hate or not hate. So multimodal means that considering text, image, video and audio all together. But if you are only considering text or if you are considering image or only considering the video, then that is called the unimodal. So in our case, mostly the data sets are of basically, there is a heavy, the data sets are not uniformly distributed. So number of Boolean classes are very less compared to the non-Boolean classes. Or the number of hate classes number of samples in the hate class are very less compared to the number of samples in the non-hate class. So because of that, we have used different sampling techniques. So one possible sampling technique is called the class weight. So when we are calculating the class weight, maybe we are giving more emphasis to the minority class. So the class weight is Wj is equal to total number of observations by number of classes into number of observations in class J. Okay, so that way the minority class is basically given the more weightage and the majority class is given the less weightage. Then there is this random oversampling. So what we can do, we can randomly select examples from the minority class with replacement, increase the number of training examples for minority classes in the dataset. So random oversampling means we can randomly select some examples from the minority class and we can keep on adding those examples in the minority class. So basically we are repeating some examples in the minority class. So we are randomly selecting some examples from a minority class with replacement, and then we are again inserting those examples in the data. So this way we are increasing the number of training samples for the minority class in the data set. Then there is a combined undersampling and the oversampling. So undersampling involves undersampling involves randomly removing examples from the majority class, and the oversampling involves randomly adding some examples in the minority class. So basically we have also performed the combined undersampling and the oversampling. So basically combination of both undersampling and oversampling. So oversampling is done on the minority class and the undersampling is done on the majority class, and then we are trying to make the number of samples in both the classes equal. So we worked on two problem statements. One is the multi-modal hate speech detection in the images with the noisy text. So basically we have proposed a multimodal hate speech classifier to identify the hate speech over both noisy text and the images. So we have experimented with several architectures with various attention mechanisms. And we have shown that our proposed model, which is basically using the character embedding, sentence embedding, and the image embedding, so is basically outperforms the state-of-the-art methods. And also we have basically worked with a existing data set of the Twitter. It is an English data set, but here each data sample is having some text and the images. Okay, so how our final architecture gives better performance on this particular available data set, which is an English language data set, in multimodal feature combination in comparison to the state of the art. And then in the second work, we have worked on the early detection of hate speech in the videos with associated comments. So we have taken the Vine dataset I already mentioned, and now we have proposed a new architecture. So here we have used the character embedding, sentence embedding, and the some frame image embedding, and then we have fused these embeddings together, and then we have proposed a deep learning based model to basically for the early detection of hate speech from the videos. So we proposed a multimodal hate speech classifier for early identification of hate speech over videos and their comments. We have incorporated the idea of cross-attention fusion mechanism with various sampling techniques. We have empirically evaluated the performance on a Vine dataset. The proposed model improves and attains better performance for output probability threshold of 0.5 in comparison to the architecture seen 2. So this is our data set. So this data set is basically standard data set. Basically, this was used in this, proposed in this WACB conference. So here this data set basically contains manually annotated multimodal tweets from by 150,000 tweets, each one of them containing text and the image. So there are 36,000 number of hate tweet and 149,000 number of total number of tweets. So the percentage of hate tweet is only 24.67. So these are some examples from the data set. There is an image and there is a text. So we have used different models because initially we tried exploring different models. Like we have used the model BiLSTM for the baseline text model. We have used the self-learnable word embedding over BiLSTM. Then globe text model is also used. It is used the pre-trained globe word vectors trained over 2 billion tweets with 27 billion tokens. Then BART text model used a simple BART based model from paper. Then BART capsule, BART followed by the capsule. Then the globe capsule, and then efficient net is always used for the image extraction, for the feature extraction from the images. So basically we have there are several baseline multimodal models. This uses the simple concatenation of feature combination, concatenation and predict the class using a feed-forward neural network. So BART base is used for the feature extraction, and the efficient net is basically used for the image feature extraction. So now we have basically modified this particular model. And basically we have used this particular model. This is our proposed model, where there are some basically character-based embedding. So we have generated some character-based embeddings, then passed them through the BiLSTM and the basically capsule networks. There are some BART-based embeddings. So these BART-based embeddings are also passed through the capsule layers. And then we have the images. So images are passed through the efficient net. We are getting some image vectors. And then there is this query key and value. So these are the basically attentions. So as I mentioned, that attention is also very important. So we have modified the multimodal approach like this. We have used some character level embedding is used along with the word embedding. So character level embedding is used because character level embeddings are very much useful for the noisy text. So for especially character level embedding is used along with the word embedding. This is done to add another modality to understand more out of vocabulary words, spelling mistakes, which are very frequent in online comments and posts. And then we have also used the multi-head dot product attention mechanism. Using attention mechanism over the extracted image and text features, along with simple concatenation to relate words to the relevant portion of the associated image. So we have used this attention scale dot product attention. So basically there are two types of attention, multi-head self attention fusion and the multi-head cross attention fusion. So based on this paper, attention is all we need. We have basically proposed these two types of attentions. So this is our proposed architecture. We have the character embedding, we have the word embedding, and we have the image embedding. So these character embeddings are passed through the CNN, but then the capsule network. BART embeddings or the word embeddings are also passed through the capsule network. And the image embeddings are also added, and then there is a finally concatenation of the three embeddings. And then there are some fully connected layers. And finally, you are basically predicting the class. It is Boolean or the non-Boolean. So these are our different results. These are the results with the unimodal architecture. So this globe text is only based on the text modality. BART text is also based on the text modality. BART capsule is also based on the textual modality. Globe capsule is also based on the textual modality. And efficient net is based on the image modality. So these are the results of the unimodality. And these are the results of the multimodality. We have the base multimodal architecture plus the self attention network, and this is our proposed model. So where we have used the character embedding also, and we have also used the different sampling strategy, and these are the existing works on the same data set. So you can see that our proposed model where we are using character embedding, word embedding, and the image embedding, and also followed by this proposed model with this different sampling techniques basically outperform all the existing techniques. So we are getting the accuracy of 74.01% and the AOC value of 76.34%. So and it is able to outperform all the existing techniques. So instances, basically we also performed the error analysis. See instances which refer to an event outside their context were misclassified, and community which use the slur without an intention of hate is basically misclassified. So suppose there are some hate words but that the intention is not hate, then those are getting misclassified. So then we have also worked on the Vine dataset, and now we have proposed a new architecture. So already I have mentioned about the Vine dataset. So Vine dataset is basically a collection of videos and the corresponding comments. So there is a video, and the video is basically of 6 seconds long. So each video is basically 6 seconds long, and each video is having several comments. So comments are basically chronologically sorted. So we have basically considered 5 comments, 10 comments, 15 comments at a particular time. So this is the characteristics of the data set. Number of media sessions is 970. Number of head videos is 304. Number of non-head videos is 666. Number of missing or empty video files is 130. So these are the number of comments are 78,250. So these are our models that we have used for the text classification. We have used the Globe text model, BART text model, ExcelNet text model, and the residual by LSTM. So these models are used for the text classification, and the efficient net is basically used for the image classification. So the Globe text model is basically it is used the pre-trained Globe word vectors trained over 2 billion tweets with 27 billion tokens. BART text model used a simple BART-based model from paper with input dimension 512. So these are the models used for the text embedding, and this is the model used for the image embedding. So baseline multimodal uses simple concatenation for feature combination, concatenate image features, word embeddings, and the sentence embedding, and predict the class using a feed-forward neural network. So ExcelNet is basically used for the text embedding, and EfficientNet is basically used for the image embedding. And then we have also modified this multimodal framework. So we have also used the character-based embedding with the word embedding, and also the cross attention mechanism to fuse the basically these videos and the comments. So basically this is our proposed architecture. So we have this character level embedding, we have the ExcelNet based word embedding, and we have also the image embedding. And then there is this cross attention fusion mechanism, and finally we are basically fusing all the feature vectors. So we are getting some character level features, we are getting some sentence embedding features, and some image based features. All are concatenated together, and then we are passing through the fully connected layers to get the final prediction. So these are the results. So basically, these are the results of the unimodal architecture. So as I mentioned, this Globe, BART text, ExcelNet, RACE, BioSTM, all these are basically text-based models, and the EfficientNet is basically image-based model. And these are our proposed architecture. So we have done different sampling, oversampling or the undersampling. So proposed architecture with the oversampling plus undersampling outperforms all the existing approaches. So we are getting the accuracy of 78.12 and a F1 score of 73.42, which is made better than the state-of-the-art approaches. So we again have done some error analysis. So the presence of abusive or the swear words in a sentence intended to imply the sarcasm, and the uses of slur words are always basically classified as the hate speech. So, and if suppose there is a there is a hate sentence, but there is no hate word present. But maybe the absence of any hate word, though the text implies hate, is also misclassified. So in conclusion, I would like to mention that basically I have shown you some results and some proposed approaches for hate speech detection and the cyberbullying detection. So we have developed our own data sets for the Indian scenario and also in the CodeBix scenario. So data sets are basically having the CodeBix data, and we propose different deep learning based architectures and the machine learning based architectures for solving the cyberbullying detection and the hate speech detection. And our proposed models basically outperform all the baselines and also the state-of-the-art approaches. We have also performed experiments on the state-of-the-art data sets available in English. As I have mentioned that we have used the standard data sets available in English, and we developed our own model for the English data set also. And by the incorporation of the character embedding, we are able to outperform all the existing techniques. So we have experimented with several combinations of different attention mechanisms, character embeddings, word embeddings, sentence embeddings with different sampling techniques. So thank you. So now if you have any question, you can ask me.
Ma'am, there's one question.
Yes, Naman.
Is it not hectic to calculate the overall essence of video? Sometimes it could be some satirical video targeting a person, which is against cyberbullying only.
So could you please repeat, Naman, the question?
Ma'am, question is, won't it be hectic to calculate overall essence of a video? Because sometimes it can be a satirical video or something like that.
Yes, correct. You are pretty correct. So basically that is the point. So that's why you can see that when I have shown you the results, no, you see that when we are using only the video modality, then the accuracy is very low. Okay, because of this reason only, that if you are considering the whole video, then it is very difficult, that to detect the bullying based on the video. So this is the thing, that when we have considered only the video, then we are getting only 23% F1 score. Okay, because from the video itself, it's very difficult to understand whether the video contains the bullying or non-bullying. But when we are considering the email contents also, comments associated with the video, in that case the accuracy jumps to 71%. So yes, you are very correct that it's very difficult to identify the important portion of a particular video where there is a bullying, and it's very difficult to analyze the whole video because it is a 15-second long video, and there are many frames. So it's very difficult to identify which frame is basically of type bullying and which is of type non-bullying. So our experimental results also indicate the same. So you can see that when you are already considering the video based features, then our F1 score is only 23%.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for the session. Now I'll pass over to Alok to conclude today's session. Alok?
Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was really a great session.